sisig, adobo, kare-kare, ube. Just like the history of the Philippines itself, Filipino cuisine has influences from a variety of Asian cultures, the Spanish, and the origins of the Philippines itself. As Filipinos are the second largest demographic of Asians in America, why is it that many cuisines aren't more known to people today? To start, let us understand how history has influenced the Filipino dishes. Predating the Spanish conquistadors entering, the Philippines had trade relations with China. The Chinese traders brought with them new culinary ingredients, methods, and dishes that the Filipinos have adapted over time. Some of these ingredients include soy sauce, bean sprouts, tofu, bamboo shoots, lemongrass, and fish sauce. Moving on to the early 1500s, the Spanish arrived in the Philippines and started to colonize the country for the next few hundred years. Adobo was introduced to preserve meat in the tropical weather of the Philippines. The Spanish also introduced sautéing and braising as cooking methods, as well as ingredients like garlic, onions, tomatoes, corn, and potatoes. After the Spanish-American War, the U.S. introduced many fast food items such as hot dogs, hamburgers, and Spam. The U.S. also taught convenient cooking techniques of freezing and pre-cooking.
The Chinese were among the first groups to influence Filipino cuisine and culture. This is due to the Chinese becoming dominant traders in the 12th and 13th centuries during the Song dynasty. The introduction of soy sauce was made as a seasoning for various dishes. This influence was highly accepted by the Philippines. Now another way the Chinese influenced Filipino cuisine can be seen with a Filipino dish called pancit molo, which was inspired by the Chinese wonton soup, with the difference being in the molo wrappers used for the wontons or dumplings. Now the last Chinese influence example I will give can be seen in the Filipino cuisine called hopia, or a rice cake made from Philippine ingredients. This cuisine was inspired and influenced by the Chinese rice bean cake, which is traditionally made for celebrations.
The Spanish colonialism of both Mexico and the Philippines had long-lasting influences on both cultures. According to Rudy Guevara Jr. in Filipinos and Nueva España, though Spain colonized both Mexico and the Philippines, it was Mexican and Filipino interaction on an intimate and local level that initiated that trans-Pacific cultural and human exchange as it exists today, which has influenced both countries tremendously. Now we will take a look at the similarities of Mexican and Filipino dishes. First, Filipino menudo and Mexican menudo. Stews from both cultures, which are either made with pork or beef, include peppers and a chili base. Next, we have bistec Filipino and bistec a la mexicana, both using thinly sliced beef with onions, peppers, and either a soy sauce or a tomato sauce base. And lastly, we have the Filipino ensaimadas and the Mexican pan dulce. Both are baked and sweet pastries, tracing their influences back to the Spaniards.
We interviewed Matthew, who is a Filipino-American studying at Cal Poly Pomona, and got his perspective on Filipino food.
Food is a huge part of the Filipino culture. I think it's like one of the biggest things that the Filipino culture is known for. Typically, we'll still eat with spoon and fork, but there are certain occasions where if it's on a long table, we'll use like a finger. All the food will be just like laid out on the table on like banana leaves, and you'll just like kind of gather what you want and just eat.
Okay.
Definitely some ingredients, like there's a certain dish called sisig. In traditional culture, you won't add mayo, but in Filipino American cuisine, they'll start adding like special ingredients like mayo or like more Western ingredients.
We asked, are there differences between Filipino American cuisine versus traditional Filipino cuisine? According to Matthew, there is a dish called sisig, which is really popular among the Filipino culture. Sisig is made from parts of pig head and liver. usually seasoned with chili peppers and type of citrus called calamansi. In a traditional Filipino way, they don't add mayo, but Filipino Americans add mayo and other Western ingredients to it. Through the benevolent assimilation program that took place in 1899, the Americans used cultural imperialism to subjugate the native population, establishing U.S.-style schools and English as the medium of instruction and national language. We see forced assimilation of Filipino culture, which may have affected the Filipino food culture as well.
Through our archaeology of knowledge, the Spanish influence on Filipino culture has become more evident. In Rudy P. Guevara's article, we learned about the pivotal role of Catholicism in the efforts to wipe out indigenous identity. According to Guevara, an estimated 80% of the Filipino population was forcefully assimilated into Catholicism by Mexican clergy, making certain religious holidays and celebrations prevalent to both cultures. Maize festivals and coming-of-age ceremonies known as quinceañeras in Mexico directly translated into Lutrina and debuts for Filipinos. In the movie The Debut, we see the cultural significance of these celebrations. Furthermore, we see how food is integrated into these celebrations and how central it is in bringing people together. As suggested in the article, We Don't Sleep Around Like White Girls Do, written by Yen Le Espiritu, parental expectations of their children is extremely gendered. Women are traditionally responsible for preparing and cooking food for their families. Although the women prep, cook, and set the table for meals, men are generally the first to be served as a sign of respect. Traditionally, men take on the breadwinner role to support their families.
Unlike other cultural unique dishes, Filipino cuisine is seen as a fusion of multiple cultures. Instead of viewing this as a fault against Filipino food, this should be seen as a charm, booning the culture as a whole. Filipinos have been able to adapt to different environments and create dishes that stay true to their culture.